Life is Strange is my favorite video game series, and I was extremely excited for Double Exposure to come out. You know how people kind of like remember where they were when important world events happen, like when the Queen died or whatever? That is literally how I felt about the Double Exposure trailer coming out. Like, I remember exactly what I was doing, exactly where I was, who I was with. And when I saw that, I had to drop everything to watch that trailer and freak out about it because I love the series. I love Max. I was so excited for her to come back, and I went so overboard about it. I pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition and the Collector's Edition, and after the trailer came out, I unfollowed them on social media. I muted everything on Reddit because I thought, I'm not going to have anything spoiled for me. I don't want leaks. I don't even want any speculation about what people are thinking about this game or what's going to happen in this game because I want to come to my own conclusions and I really want to experience it on my own without being influenced by anybody. I ended up playing the first 2 episodes early and went on Reddit in between that and when the full game released, just basically to see what everyone's thoughts were. And honestly, it was positive. Like, the first 2 episodes of the game were so amazing. But after the full game released, ever since then, I have seen overwhelmingly negative reviews from other fans. And honestly, I understand a lot of the disappointments, and I share some of those disappointments of my own. And I genuinely understand where a lot of people are coming from, because when you love something so much, I think it's just really easy to get your hopes up and then inevitably be disappointed by whatever's released. I've definitely been there, and I was there in this case as well. I'm not going to act like everything about this game was perfect. So yes, I was disappointed by parts of the game. However, I wanted to make this video basically in defense of Double Exposure because I think there were so many things to love about it, and it makes me sad as a fan just to see everybody so negative and hating it when I feel like there were so many good aspects that people just honestly aren't seeing because they're focused on all the things that they're upset about. I am not a YouTuber. I have not made any YouTube videos before about anything. I'm just a really big fan of the series, and I wanted to come on here and kind of get my thoughts out there and just share it with the community and see what everybody else thinks. So, why am I defending this game? I wanted to break this video into 2 main parts. The first part is basically everything that was good in the game, the things that I enjoyed, the things that I've seen other people enjoy, and kind of just talk about the good aspects of this game. And in the second part of this video, I wanted to talk about 2 main things that I believe could have been changed in the game to make the fan reception better. I don't want to go and completely change the whole story and make things complicated. I want to talk about 2 things that I think could have been meaningful, feasible changes that the writers could have made to basically improve the fan reception of this game. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start by talking about the good parts of Life is Strange Double Exposure. First of all, obviously, we got Max back, and even better, they did not ruin her. With a lovable character like Max Caulfield and a lovable series, you always have to get worried about, are they going to ruin this character? Are they going to ruin the series? And I think the fear is valid in the sense that Deck 9 was not even the original creators of the character, and obviously she wasn't in the prequel Before the Storm at all, besides the bonus episode. But even though Max was not their character, I think they took her and did an excellent job. The character growth that they were able to portray without having to be so obvious about it, just the subtleties of she's older, she's more confident. Throughout the game, you can see photos that she's taken. She is a professional and she's mature. She's learned from the experiences in her life, and it really shows. And even though they showed an older, more mature version of Max, they did not get rid of any of the things that made Max Max in the first place. The personality of Max truly did stay the same. You could talk about the one-liners that she has. Like, I think it's in episode 2, when she's originally switching in between the timelines and getting used to it, she comes out and she goes,
Oofa doofa, that's gonna take some getting used to.
Oofa doofa, are you kidding me? Like, shit that nobody says. Nobody says that stuff in real life except Max Caulfield, and that's why I love her. She is awkward, she's lovable, and she's not afraid to be herself, and I love that about her. So I think that is an extremely positive aspect of the game, just right off the bat. And talking about the other characters, honestly, I feel like This cast of characters was really impressive. Just as a side note, it was a really diverse cast, a lot of LGBT representation, which most of the fan base is gay. So I appreciate them leaning into that and saying, we're going to have this game take place in a liberal arts college. Everybody's going to be gay. You're going to love it. You're going to have so much fun with it. I just think that that's a nice little aspect of it. But the characters, especially our main friend group, is so exciting to follow. I think the characters are so real. And to be honest, I think this is the best dialogue we've had in the series. There is such a lovable charm to the original game and all the weird things that those characters said, and that game trying to have it come across as if that is just how people talk, how teenagers talk, when obviously we all know that's not the case. And these Frenchmen are not going to be able to encapsulate what it is to talk like a teenager in America. But even though a lot of the dialogue was cringe in that game, the emotions, the story, the characters, it made it easy to overlook some of those dialogue mismatches, if you will. But this game feels totally different from that. The way the characters talk and the slang and everything is just very raw and real, in my opinion. Even the fact that we've got characters making offhand one-liners about TikTok.
How dare she use her phone without your permission?
You think this is an easy gig? Kahuna's got a social calendar like a TikTok influencer.
That's the type of thing that people my age actually would say, and I feel like the dialogue is just so believable and the characters become more real because of that. It does not hurt that the voice acting is amazing as well. A big step up that I noticed in this game from the original, even though I love the original and I'm not here to talk shit about it, is you could tell in the first game, you've got characters talking to each other, and you can tell that the voice actors don't really know the context for what they're saying. And sometimes the delivery is not natural, not because the voice actors did anything wrong, but because they didn't have that context. I'm going to insert a clip here so you know what I'm talking about.
Did you see the freak snowfall yesterday? I was riveted by that weird snow flurry yesterday.
In double exposure, I really don't think that's the case. I think it's extremely natural. It really does sound like this is not just a game where you're editing the best voice clips together to make a conversation and you're going from point A to point B depending on what choices you make. It really does feel like natural, smooth flow of a conversation, and it's so engaging. It doesn't take you out of the game at all. It really is like watching a movie, which for a game like this, I think is so important because it contributes so much to the believability of the story and the characters. And all of those things mesh together in my mind. Great characters, great voice acting, great dialogue. Those three things together just make it so enjoyable and such a fun experience to play. And all of that is just me talking about the characters. If we talk about the actual plot of this game, I personally, telling my friends about it, I'm like, this game is gripping. Gripping. That's the word that comes to mind because I was glued to my seat. I had to know what happened next. Every twist and turn that this story took, I was so engaged. I was loving it. And I just couldn't wait to see what they did next. Honestly, it was so exciting to play. The ending of episode 2, the ending of episode 3, the beginning of episode 4, those are moments that stand out to me. Episode 2 with sneaking around, trying to avoid detection from aldermen. I really believe that some of those sequences are some of the best sequences out of any of the games so far. It was so tense, it felt like there were real stakes, you didn't know what was going to happen next, and it made for such a crazy, exciting experience, in my opinion. I know some things fell off, we'll get to that, but overall, the plot I thought was so exciting, honestly, so exciting. I cannot stress enough how good I think the plot was and the tone was of the game. Obviously, the game was visually stunning, looked beautiful, the soundtrack was amazing. Tessa Rose Jackson did such a good job with Illusion being the trailer song and the song when Safi is killed. It fits so well. She understood the assignment so well. All the other songs, So This Is Lonely, it is such a raw, painful, beautiful song. And I remember listening to it before the game came out, even just imagining in my head, like, oh my God, like this is a low. This is Max's lowest low. Like, where is she at when this happens? Like, I was feeling the emotions from these songs before even touching the game. The other songs are so great, even just the background songs. When you're transitioning from the living world to dead world and hearing the different tone of both of those worlds and the music that's basically accompanying it, wow, like the music is so good, and using it to create a distinction between those two worlds is just such a nice touch. There are Snapping Turtle playlists already popping up of people recording their favorite songs and posting them on YouTube, and I just know it's going to take the community months to archive every song in this game because there's so much good to enjoy about it. And not just that, but the game took place in a really cool new setting. Obviously, the developers know that we love Arcadia Bay and we love Blackwell Academy, and they said, how can we take that love that the community has for Blackwell Academy but adapt that to an older Max and where she would be in life? And I think it fits so well. It is exactly the type of place that Max would end up in, and it's interesting to see that new setting as a bigger college campus as opposed to the relatively small Blackwell community. Something that I wanted to touch on, and that I'm definitely going to delve into more later in this video, is I believe that the new power is extremely exciting, and I love that it's reminiscent of the comics. It seems like a natural evolution of Max's powers. Even in the first game, although it's not downright said, it is absolutely hinted at that when Max is going back in time and changing different aspects of reality, that she is creating these alternate timelines that coexist side by side.
Who are you? Holy shit, are you serial? I'm you, dumbass. Or I'm one of many Maxes you've left behind.
And this feels exactly like that. You've got this one major change. Does Safi live or does Safi die? And you've got these two branching timelines that Max can traverse in between. Are you kidding me? That's so cool. I want them to go into that more. I hope that in the sequel, it's not just these two timelines, because obviously they decided to merge them at the end. I hope that there are more timelines that we can visit. I want all the fan servicey shit that they put in the comics for real. And that point relates to my next point, which is that for the first time in this series, the Life is Strange franchise has knowingly set us up to have a sequel, which the implications of that are crazy. Originally with Don't Nod, they always wanted the anthology, and I respect that decision, and I love it. I think this is such a great time to be a fan of Life is Strange, because you've got Deck 9 expanding on the story that we love with Max, but then you've also got Don't Nod making the Lost Records series, which is going to be so fun to play as well. And if you want that anthology, Bloom and Rage is coming out just in a couple months. But if you're also someone who really loves Max and wants to follow her story, I think it's so exciting that truly, for the first time, Max Caulfield will return. And we can talk about, I don't like the Avengers implications of it all, but at the same time, to see that and know they're planning a sequel, and I really hope they make it. I hope sales are good enough to justify them making another game, because I will eat that shit up like it's candy. But I just think some of the things that fell short in this game, I hope they're going to expand upon in the next game. Really make this a full-fledged, thought-out story, make it all come full circle, and I'm excited to see the direction that they take it, even though I have hesitations about potentially bringing back old characters. I really don't want this to be a superhero series. I want this to be Life is Strange. We've already got Marvel, we've already got DC. Let's have Life is Strange. Thank you. But all of that's a tangent. I think I've talked about everything that I wanted to talk about in this section. There are obviously little things here and there that I could go into, but overall, I just think that whether you liked the game or not, it's extremely obvious to me that a lot of love and care was put into this game. It was intentional, it was thoughtfully crafted. There are so many details that really make the characters and the world such a real place. And I know there's criticisms, and they're warranted. They are warranted. But to act like Deck 9 doesn't care about the game, doesn't care about Max, doesn't care about Chloe, I don't believe that. What I saw was a really good game. And I think the thing that's disappointing about that is that it could have been a really great game, and I don't think they hit that mark. And I wanted to share two things that I think would have made the game better. I don't want to rewrite this game. I want to respect the creative decisions that Deck 9 made, and I also want to respect the direction they're trying to go in the future of this series. These are just two things that I think would have been feasible changes that would have made this game better and helped quell a lot of the disappointment that the fans had. The most major complaints that I have seen are how the game handled Chloe and the ending of the game, episode 5. I might lose a lot of people here with my first point, but hear me out. I think that Deck 9 should have canonized Bay over Bay. And if you don't know which one I'm talking about, unfortunately, it's not Chloe. And I love Chloe. And if it sounds crazy that I suggest that Deck 9 kill her off, stick around, I'll explain why. Maybe I don't speak for all of us, but at least for myself, I pretty much accepted that Chloe was not going to be in the game, or at least not in a major role. We all know that with the very divisive ending of the first game, it's extremely difficult to make a sequel based on that choice. They would truly have to make 2 different games depending on if Chloe is alive with Max or dead. It is too difficult for them to do, which is why Life is Strange was supposed to be an anthology in the first place. But this is where I wanted to talk about the comics. So spoilers for the comics if you haven't read them, but I really wanted to delve into, number one, I thought that the power was very similar, and that's kind of what got me thinking about this. In the comics, you've got all these different timelines where Max is able to go into these different worlds where things are completely different. You've got a world where Rachel is alive with Chloe. You've got a world where Max and Chloe are together. You've got all these branching realities based on different choices that Max could have made throughout the games. And not even just Max, the other characters as well. And to be honest, I think that that is one of the really special aspects of Max's time travel powers. Because in a way, it kind of makes everything canon. All of us played the same game, the first game, but we all played it differently. We made different combinations of choices. And there is not one right way to play the game. All of those realities are canon. It's my personal belief that Double Exposure should have taken place in a world where Chloe was killed. And why do I say that? I think it gives Deck 9 a legitimate reason to not include Chloe in the game without disrespecting her character or the fans that love her. I think that leading us to believe that Chloe may be in the game or that she may have a bigger role than she did have, it just really rubbed people the wrong way and pissed them off, and rightfully so. You think that your favorite character is going to be in the game or she's going to have a big role, and then she's not there at all. I think if they had been upfront and said, this game takes place in a reality where Arcadia Bay was saved and Chloe was not, at least we would have all been on the same page and we would have been able to accept that decision. And I think with Max's reality jumping powers, there really could have been the opportunity for there to be a Chloe cameo that would have been much more satisfying than just seeing some text on a phone. But by giving us the choice to save Arcadia Bay or save Chloe in Double Exposure, we're making that choice knowing that it doesn't really matter. Because either way, you're not in Arcadia Bay and Chloe's not there beside you. And if Deck 9 knew that was going to be the case, they could have handled it better. And with that, I want to kind of transition into my second point, which is that I think episode 5 could have gone a lot differently without actually impacting the direction that the series wants to go. So this is me literally rewriting the episode, but I'm leaving the beginning and end the same, just trying to reimagine what it could have looked like in a way that I felt like would have been satisfying. So let's fast forward to episode 5. Safi shoots her mom, Storm is going crazy, Safi tells Max to kill her, and Max refuses. I actually love that. I think it's full circle. It's Max defying the choice, which is just a really cool thing, and they enter the storm together. Keep all of that the same. That is where I think the influence of the comics should have come into play. What if Max and Safi entered the storm, and it was just like the comics with a web of different realities? Let's say we see windows into our living world, into our dead world, but there's also 1,000 other worlds that Max and Safi can see. They try to stay together, but they get sucked into separate worlds, and it's just random. It's a force of nature. They have no choice in the matter, and they're separated. This is what I think could have been so cool. We could have had a totally fake-out ending that's presented as this perfect reality where everything is fine. Safi's there, and it's not our Safi, but it's a different one from a different reality. and everyone is alive and they're well, celebrating Krampus, having a great time. Max is obviously hesitant because she's like, what just happened? I don't understand. But she's happy that everything seems to be fine. Until the illusion is shattered because Chloe walks in the door. And I think she should give Max a hug or a kiss depending on if you said that you were friends or sweethearts in the beginning of the game. Max would obviously be stunned and start freaking out, and Chloe would pull her aside to ask what's wrong. Max could try to explain what happened, but imagine Chloe just tells her that none of it happened. Arcadia Bay is safe, they're happily together, and nobody's tried to kill their new friend Safi. And it's just this total mindfuck of like, oh my god, what happened? And all of a sudden, Max goes into another migraine episode, and the portal opens back up. She tries to hold on to Chloe and stay in this world and tell her that she loves her, but she just gets sucked into it against her will. Like I said, it's a force of nature, she can't control it. So now we're sucked into another reality. The game as is wanted us to go down this path of remembering Jefferson and the horrible things that he did to Max. I think that in this reimagined version, we could still have that. I think we could warp into another reality where Max died in Jefferson's dark room. And she's standing there and she's looking at her own grave and having to remember and relive all the trauma that she went through. And I'm just imagining it now as we speak. The camera pans over and we see Chloe's grave right next to Max's grave, and we as the audience realize that this is a reality where neither of them survived. So just imagine that. We've got all these portals opening up, Max being sucked into these different worlds. There's so much fun we could have with that. Like, I'm biased because it's my idea, but I just think it's a really good idea for the fan service aspect of being able to let us see Chloe and see other things that could have happened. And what if this just goes on for a while of Max randomly being thrown from one reality to another reality until finally Max and Safi end up back in the same one. And at this point, it's been going on for so long and reality's unstable, it's falling apart. We've got worlds colliding in on one another, and the timeline is all fucked as well because of all this jumping between timelines that's not supposed to be happening. Going back to the original thesis that the powers are not so much of a blessing, but they really have repercussions. So as these worlds are falling apart, you're starting to see these phantoms like Reggie saw of himself and Alderman saw of himself. We've got these versions of characters from different realities and different times, and they're starting to see each other when they shouldn't, and people start freaking out, rightfully so. Bring it back to what happened with Alderman. You see a couple characters interact when they shouldn't, and all of a sudden they start disappearing just like Alderman did. And Max is terrified because she knows that if she had just killed Safi, this wouldn't have happened. But then she sees Safi stumble into another version of herself, and she starts to disappear just like the other characters are. Max knows she's in too deep. She's sacrificed so much already to try and save Safi. She grabs onto Safi, and they disappear into thin air. Pitch black. Until Max wakes up on the overlook with Safi. Safi is practically glitching. She is not herself. There is something wrong. And Max pieces together that when these alternate reality timelines of characters interact, they're obviously not supposed to do that. And what happens is they merge into one. The character ceases to exist in one of the realities, and the character that remains is a merged version of both of those characters. Therefore, this new Safi is not even our Safi anymore. She is merged with another version of herself. And even though we know that there's so many good parts of her character, we can see that the worst parts of her character are rising to the surface. And she doesn't really have any control over it because she's just been changed. When I was playing episode 5 the first time, I felt like Safi's changes as a character were so erratic. She was fine in one scene, and then in the next scene, she's rambling about, we could be gods, let's get a team together, blah, blah, blah. I felt like it was so out of place, and I feel like this could explain not just Safi's erratic behavior and sudden change in behavior, but also explain what the hell happened to Alderman early on, because that was never explained, and I don't know if they plan to expand upon that in the sequel, but the story as a whole now never addressed that again, and I think it needed to be addressed. I think that if they had done episode 5 in this way, they could have explained away some of those plot holes and made a satisfactory final episode. Because the whole nightmare sequence and trying to get the pieces of Safi out of these other characters, it seemed like filler when there was still so much that needed to be explained. And I feel like they should have explained it. And they could even leave us with that same final decision. I personally didn't feel like it was a great ending of the game, but if that's the direction that they wanted to go in, they could have done that, and it would have been believable, because this is not our Safi. This is a new Safi that we don't even know if we can help, because she's just had multiple versions of herself merged together. She is unstable, and we don't know if we can help her. So we make that final choice, and we head back to Caledon. But when we're there, we realize that there are big and small changes that show us that this is not the place that we left. I think gameplay-wise, maybe if you romanced one of the characters, it would actually be the opposite character that would be Max's partner. And rightfully so, Max is freaking out because she's like, what happened? What did I do? Max realizes that this isn't a merged reality like the final episode had us create, but this is just a new reality that her and Safi ended up in. In this reality, nobody knows Max's secret, even the characters she revealed it to in the game. And nobody knows about any of the things that happened with Safi either, because that never even happened in this timeline. Max and Safi are the only characters who understand each other and know what they went through, and everyone else is a blank slate. And I think that that could have set us up for a next game where, in a genuine way, we could have a blank slate to move forward from. It doesn't matter who you romanced. Nobody knows about Max's powers. Nobody knows about Safi's powers. They really could have made anything from that next game. And I think that there would be so much more mystery in that, and it really would have made for an exciting next game, as opposed to the big speech of, we're going to go through this hard thing together. Because at this point, we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know what Safi's going to do. None of the other characters know what Safi's going to do, and they don't even know what she's been through or that she has powers, or that Max has powers either. Maybe this idea just sounds totally bonkers. Maybe it would have been terrible, and maybe everyone would have complained about that as well. It is a completely different ending of the game, but in my opinion, I think it would have just patched up some of those plot holes that we had. It could have given explanations for the character inconsistencies, the plot inconsistencies, and it would have just set us up to be in a really great spot for the next game. And I know I've rambled on and on about it, but I basically just wanted to share this because I've seen so many people complaining about the game, and I wanted to come at it from a different perspective. I think it was a good game, and I also wanted to share my own opinions about what could have made it great and better. If you watched this video, thank you. I know it's not the highest quality YouTube video in the world, and I don't have experience doing this, but I've been a member of the Life is Strange community for a long time, and I kind of wanted to start this dialogue and see what other people thought. So if you watch this, please leave a comment letting me know what you think, or if you have other ideas, because obviously I like this idea because I came up with it, but I think that there's lots of different things that they could have done that could have ended up being a good game. So leave your ideas in the comments, and if there are any, I will be excited to read them. Regardless, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed hearing all the good things about Life is Strange and hearing some ideas of things that maybe could have made some of the bad parts better. As I said, I really enjoyed this game. I had some disappointment about different choices that were made in the game, but overall, I'm still really happy with my experience playing it and really happy with the final product that was created. And I'm really excited to play whatever they make next. I really hope there's a sequel. I hope they don't go full Avengers on it. That would make me very sad. But as long as they stick to the DNA of Life is Strange, I think that there are so many great stories that they could tell. So, thanks everybody. Catch you later.